Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining the call tonight. Delight to be introducing the Gaelic Games player pathway. Tonight we'll be focusing on the F1, which will be the nursery element of the player pathway. So tonight, folks, we'll be joined by Sean Gannon, who most of you would know from Paris. He is a national club camp coordinator, and now he's a man of many talent and has many bows to his string. We'll also be joined by Gerard Doherty from MCG Coaching, and we'll be also joined by our new head of operations, Chris Collins. So,
yeah, thanks, Chris. Look, I recognise a few faces. Obviously, for those who don't know, I was in Europe last year. We did a bit of a coaching conference as such. And since then, I've kind of picked up a couple of extra jobs in Croke Park, and one of them being the nursery program. So we were asked to create a new nursery workshop, which I'll go through in a little bit. But realistically, look, I've been asked to come on here, talk about the structure, how to set up a nursery. I understand some of you are looking at setting up juvenile clubs for the first time, or juvenile entities. Some of you already are involved in and have some juvenile teams up and running, and that's all well and good. So at times, what I'll be going through is probably a little bit over the top. Like we have best practice of what might work in a club in Ireland. It may not work for you. You may not have the same amount of volunteers and so on and so forth. So I'm well aware of that. But again, I'm trying out best practice here, and what I'd ask you to do is have a look at it and take what you can from it and try and make things work. I'll just admit that there. Again, just really about nursery, it is about keeping it simple and making it fun. And if you have your children coming up to your club or your venue you have booked for 40 minutes to an hour, and they're leaving happy and are coming back the following week, you're probably doing a fairly good job. But look, I'll share my screen now. I have a little bit of a presentation, roughly about 30 minutes, and I'll tip through a couple of slides. So again, if you see something, you have a question, throw it into the chat box, and then we'll answer them all at the end, before Michael comes on. So Chris, you might just give me a heads up if you can see my screen.
Yep, spot on, John.
Up there.
Yep.
Ideal. I'm just going to close your face is there. Yeah, again, look, so just on the agenda, a quick overview of what's been happening in the nursery space in Ireland last year, how to set up a club nursery, more about training, just about the workshop then, and then a quick look at the resources that we're currently developing. So all in all, I'd hope to be 25, 30 minutes. So again, like nursery only really started properly 7-8 years ago. But as of last year, we have 1,100 clubs in Ireland, with 51,000 participants, 30,000 boys and 21,000 girls. So it's something that all of the Irish clubs have realised it's a really, really important space. First of all, because it's their first interaction as a child or as a participant with the club. And if you can get a child in younger and work on the development, the fundamental movements that they need, it gives you a huge, huge benefit when they start to practice skills around the 7, 8, 9-year-old age. Look, the very first slide I have here is fundamental movements. It probably should come in later on, but I put it first because I really, really want to highlight how important the ABCs, which is your agility, balance, coordination, and your running, jumping, throwing is. I suppose Chris mentioned it there that I suppose when I was this age and received training, we did a lot of straight line stuff. We did a lot of laps and got fit and things I suppose we didn't really enjoy. And nowadays, even like in Ireland, we're seeing an awful lot of people try jump to do the catching, the passing, the kicking, and the striking before this. So what I'm trying to say to you really is, at this age grade, our 4 to 6-year-olds really is what we're looking at from nurseries, although there are some 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that'll turn up. We really need to hone in on the agility, balance, coordination. Because if you haven't got agility, balance, and coordination, you can't run, jump, or throw successfully. And without the 6 of these things, you certainly can't pass, catch, kick, or strike. So the big emphasis here is at this age grade, ABCs, agilities, balance, coordination. I'll spend a little bit more time on that. Click there. Again, so introduction, the benefits of a nursery program. I suppose this is kind of designed at those of you who haven't got one already. Those of you who have will probably see this. But for the participants themselves, it's their first introduction to Gaelic games. It's a great way to make friends. The real thing though that parents love to hear, and what I kind of use when I'm selling the nursery, I've been involved in the nursery for 8, 9 years now in my club. It's about developing the motor skills and coordination. It's improving their social skills. And with that comes an increased self-esteem and confidence. They're the kind of key things. Again, it's great to be part of a fun, inclusive, and social environment, but these are the skills that parents love to hear about. Because if we're brutally honest, an awful lot of our children, whereas 10, 15 years ago, would have been out playing, climbing trees, falling, getting hurt. Now a lot more time is kind of spent on computers, so we're not actually developing these motor skills and coordination the way we used to through free play. Again, the benefits for your club: it ensures the club has a solid foundation. This is the starting point on your participation pathway. It ensures that they have their ABCs before they move on to the other skills of the game. It's a fantastic way to recruit. And I don't mean just recruiting players, because obviously you will recruit players, but the nursery is a time when parents will come up with this age as well, because they're 4 and 5. They're a little bit worried about them. And it's a fantastic way of getting the parents involved. Initially, it's just a little help here and there, but then again, we're pushing to get them coaching in the long run, or helping out in other roles. It increased membership, obviously, and the participation, and the club cares for all children and allows them to develop at their own pace. Okay, now again, look, some of this mightn't be applicable to you guys in your situation, but we're looking at kind of best practice here. So there should be a club coaching committee or a juvenile committee in each club. They would establish a nursery group, so a 3 or 4 person group that will look after nursery going forward. Step 2, then, look, you implement the coaching structure, and I'll go through that shortly with you. You got to recruit some coaches and support them. And then, look, I have requirements here that we need. Previously, we've needed Garda Vet and Safeguarding and ICGG, or your equivalent, whether that be Access and I or whatever it is in your country in terms of vetting. The ICGG is not essential anymore, and I'll explain that a little bit further down the line. And then obviously, look, a registration day, promotion, a program in your local creches, your schools, social media campaign. It's just getting the word out there and getting children to the field. Okay, like this is in an ideal world, and I understand for this that like there's nurseries in Ireland that would have 400 to 500 children at them, and in this case, we had to put all of these people involved because you need that amount of help. In my nursery back home, I have about 100. We don't have a nursery committee, so we have a juvenile committee as such. We have a lead coordinator. Underneath the lead coordinator on the coaches side is a head coach, which has an ICGG. Then we have group coaches who just help out. And of course, assistant coaches, which is your 15, 16-year-old, that's there to help out as well. But the lead coordinator would plan the sessions, and the head coaches implement them with help from these 3 here. We do have a registration and admin. So as the children arrive, they're taking the attendance list, they're giving them name tags, putting bibs on them according to their age. We have 2 people that look after our equipment, leave it out for our coaches, bring it back in, count everything to make sure it's still there when we finish. And then we have a number of parents that help out with communication and sending messages into parents groups, that kind of stuff. And then of course we get as many parents as we can to set up and tidy up. So there's jobs for everyone, whether they want to coach or not, that's fine, but we try to get as many of our parents involved in doing some sort of a job first. Now, if you're looking at this and geez, we're really struggling with the help here, the ones you really need is a lead coordinator, a head coach, and then a registration and admin, and then some group coaches and assistant coaches. They're the key ones. So those 5 there. Again, look, the ethos is really about fun. It's about having games tailored to the age of 4 to 6, so that's child centered, and it's inclusive. Like at this age, everyone should be included. Boys and girls physically are the exact same at that age, so there's no need to segregate or anything like that. Everyone in together. I'd also, if you're doing hurling and football, I would suggest having hurling and football in your sessions as well throughout the hour. Look, I suppose this is the key really to our sessions. It's about having variance in it. And the best way we've kind of found, I suppose this is best practice around the country here, is to have a station-based model. So depending on your numbers, this could be 3 stations. Obviously, if you have the 500 like I spoke about earlier, you're going to have 20, 30 stations. But on average, you're probably having about 6 stations. And as you can see here, station 1 is marked with red cones. It's a skill. You have a game, a fun game, or sorry, a game to improve your skill in number 2, and then there's a fun game in station 3. And then you would do the same again going around. Now that would be 6 stations, probably spending 8 minutes on it. You're probably looking at 48 minutes. I have this here in the middle, which is a free play area. And the free play area is good because at the start, obviously you're waiting on everybody to join, and there's no way you're going to get them all up there on time. So we leave a lot of just balls and some fun equipment lying around in the middle, and parents and kids head in there if they're there a bit early, and they're just exploring and playing and doing whatever they want. We're not giving them any advice or asking them to kick or anything. They can do whatever they want there, playing with each other, and just developing their skills through normal free play. Then obviously once we have everyone there, we will start our session and go into our stations. I just have a sample of what we send out to coaches. So I would be looking after our 6s, 8s, and 10s. I would be the coordinator on a Sunday morning. And as you can see on the left, so this is our main pitch. This is a picture of our main pitch, top goal, bottom goal. Our under 8s, which we call academy, will come up and take end line to 45. Our nursery will take 45 to the far 45, and then our under 10s will take that 45 to the end line. And that's what it looks like. They'll take our main pitch. They'll get priority over any other age grade, whether that be our senior men's team, senior women's team. It doesn't make a difference. On a Sunday morning, the 6s, 8s, 10s take precedence over everything, everyone. And as you can see here, so I'm just going to look at the under 8s. So the lead coach is David Buckley. This will be communicated to them on a Wednesday. He's going to have Kate, who's a player, helping out, and this is the equipment that they need. Okay, the same here in the red zone is Pat O'Dorn, green zone Hannah Dunphy, and they have help there. Then they come over here to find out what they're playing. So the yellow, which was David Buckley, he will have, this is telling them exactly how to play the game. And then you can see here, I have a video link just at the bottom. Chris, can you just confirm that you can see my mouse over the video link there?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So look, we have a description of how to set up the game here and how it works. And then they click on a video link. David looks at it, watches the video link. He'll arrive up with Kate, set up that game, and be ready to go. So this is sent out to our coaches every week because our coaches have told us they're really, really busy. They're very new to the coaching experience as well, and they don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of confidence in setting up games. So for the first 5 or 6 months, we would send in the hope that come the last couple of months, the guys will have enough of a bank of games themselves that they can start taking it on themselves and getting them ready for when they do go up to the under 12s once they leave under 10s. So this is really useful. Coaches love it. The feedback has been excellent on it. Right, I'm not going to go through these as such, right, because I'm going to share this presentation with you, and all of the information will be available on the GA website come the middle of March. But like, we have club, nursery committee, coordinator, coaches, helpers, all the other roles. And as you can see, Like there's a list of everything that they should be doing in a perfect world scenario. In your scenario, you look at it, you see what's relevant for you, and then you can take what you want from it, take the bits and pieces that are relevant. So I just skip through those slides. And again, health and safety considerations, I'll leave that off because I don't know what the venue is like for you. One highlight I will say is that we try to have 2 coaches to 10 to 12, kind of a 1 to 5, 1 to 6 ratio at this young age. That's one thing I will comment on. But again, I leave these these are just considerations in an ideal world as such. I don't know what the venue you'll be heading to is like, whether it's indoor or outdoor, if it's enclosed or if it's not. So you can look at them in your own time as well. And just on equipment then, so look, I put a few essentials: football, slitters, obviously softballs as well, because I mean, children can find the footballs, especially if we don't have a first touch, very difficult to catch. So softballs can help there because if they get a bang of it, they're not afraid of it. Hurls and helmets. An awful lot of nurseries in Ireland are not using helmets anymore. They're using the soft hurl, so a kind of 24-inch hurl called a hurl. And when that's being used, they don't need helmets, which obviously saves a huge amount of time, because trying to put 20 helmets on 24-year-olds or 5-year-olds can be very, very difficult and time consuming. And then cones, bibs, and poles are portable goals. I've just thrown in a few extras here that can help, but they're not essential. Your hula hoops, the pool noodles you might see in a swimming pool, they can be great for kind of catching games or jumping over. Parachutes, ladders, all those kind of things, skipping ropes, music in the background, all that kind of thing is very helpful. One thing I do enjoy using is balloons. Again, for the same reason, if we throw a balloon up, it takes a lot longer to come down than a football, and it gives the children enough time to get their hands into that basket position when we're playing football to catch balls. So balloons can be really, really useful there. Um, yeah, again, look, we're all going to be trying recruiting. I know it can be very difficult, depending on where you're based. The best thing really is getting to the schools. If you can get a presence in schools and also have that same person back in the club to make that link, that's usually beneficial. But again, look, I've put a number of things as ideas there, and we'll have all these on our resources page on the website, which I can just mention again later on, but you can look through them. Okay. Again, these may not be, these are considerations and suggestions. Have a think about them. You might say, geez, that will work. That's a great idea. Or no, that is absolutely no chance of that working with us. And that's fine. So look, coaches wearing a coach's badge and a name tag, which are usually helpful for the kids to get to know their names. Refreshments at the end for coaches. Often what happens is parents tend not to get involved if they don't have to. However, a little bit of an incentive is where if there's refreshments at the end of it and they're only for the coaches that got involved, quite often you might pull in one or two. You know, it's not the greatest incentive in the world, but it may help. Find the best time or day to run your nursery program. So, like, obviously, we've challenges everywhere. We've got competition everywhere. We've stage school, like kind of dance or on Saturdays, rugby, soccer can be on Saturdays. So we found that Sundays work best for us, early morning, so that parents can head off afterwards. And another thing I think is a great idea is that link in with the teams. So like you'll have a Christmas party or Halloween fancy dress or have the Easter bunny visit with eggs. All that things are fantastic and the kids are so excited by it. I think it's a really, really good addition to any nursery. Okay, right. So that's the end of the structure. So if you have any questions, you can throw them in, and we'll go back on them. Now I just want to talk to you about how you become qualified and what the GA is, what needs for you to be legal really on the sideline as a coach. So up to now, some of you might be aware that you had to have an ICGG, an Introduction to Coaching Gaelic Games course completed. That can be up to 8 or 9 hours, whether it be single code or dual. You would also have to do your 3 hours of safeguarding and then get your vetting or access in or your equivalent in whatever country you're in. So it turned out that from a little bit of research that was done, at the baseline report in coaching and coach education in Gaelic games, we had a lot of people that were helping out, but that they weren't qualified. So the feedback that came back from this was that 74% said balancing coaching with other demands made things really, really difficult. 70% said it was a lack of time was why they weren't getting involved in doing a course. Okay, so we took all that on board. We did loads and loads of research. We met lots of nursery coaches, coordinators, everyone you could think of. And we realized that 9 hours was too much for the parent that's just standing on the sideline with a cup of coffee to get them involved. So we came up with a new course. We've piloted a number of times. It's 90 minutes long, so you have to attend a 90-minute practical, and then it's about 10-15 minutes of an e-learning course afterwards, right? And the e-learning course is just a recap on what you learned in the 90-minute practical. So in Ireland, coaches will still need a safeguarding and a veterinary access and eye, so that'll be the exact same. The real kind of winner here is that they no longer have to do the 9 hours. Now, the crux to this is they're only qualified to coach nursery coaches. So once they move to Go Games, which is F2 on the pathway, if you're aware of the pathway, F1 is the first stage. Nursery, this is all you can coach. If you want to move up to Go Games, you must complete the ICGG. Okay, and the nursery coach qualification will appear on participants' Tubber. So you will see it if you're, Anne-Marie is the coaching officer. If she's checking our coaches across the country through Fern or whatever, this will appear. I just wanted to highlight though, so when I mentioned earlier on that we need to have a lead coordinator, the coordinator must have an ICGG, okay? Because a coordinator really should be able to get in there and address some issues that kids are having technically or whatever the case may be, where a nursery coach probably wouldn't have that experience. So that's just the difference. Just a quick look at what the workshop entails. I do believe Chris is going to be spending some time in Valencia talking about this and probably looking at a rollout from, I would imagine, 2025, 2026. It will be available from the middle of March in Ireland, and we'll have all of the resources that are needed, including the posters, available for any units in Europe that need it. So look, again, this is just a brief overview. So I mentioned that this is the player pathway for Gaelic games. This is all we're worried about during this workshop is the F1, the 4 to 6 year olds. That's it. Quick. Again, we'll ask why are you involved in your club nursery, why are you setting it up, and what do you hope to learn from this workshop. So we ask those questions to see do we meet their needs at the end. This one is a task. We're looking at what to expect. What if we've never been to a nursery session before? What's going to happen with the player? So as you can see, some things here. The player only goes flat out. He doesn't know how to play. He or she doesn't know how to place themselves. It's just flat out run as quick as they can. They'll want their own ball. They'll have no interest in working as a team. Really, they'll have a really short attention span. So we're just giving the coaches a little bit of background as what to expect, that they're not completely taken unaware when they do arrive up there. Here's the key, and I mentioned it before. So we talk about our ABCs, which is the foundation of any footballer or hurling player. And then a run and jump and throw. And look, there are some skills we work on. We're not going to be doing overhead striking or anything like a 4 to 5, but we've listed the skills that you'd probably work on the 4, 5, and 6 year olds. So in hurling, that's just catch, bounce, kick from the ground, kick from the hand pass and solo or a knee tap. And then in the hurling, it's grip and swing, ground strike, ground block, dribble, and solo with a beanbag. So again, we're just introducing it to them, but the real message here is that it's all about the early stuff, the ABCs, agility, balance, coordination. Again, this is taking them through the station model that we looked at earlier. And again, there's a practical, so they'll go through the practical, have your 3 minutes in each of those stations, so the coaches are getting a feel for 6 new games. And then look, it will finish with just consideration, so we get a chance to talk about your nursery, a problem, the course developer will, and try give some feedback there. And then finally, we'll mention the how to coach skills. So if you have these 4 skills, you're going to be able to coach and implement the game. All right, so that's just a brief outlook. I'm sure you'll all be sitting on this course over the next 12 months, and you won't be cold to it as such, so you'll see a bit of a background on it there. Chris, I just want to talk. So at the moment, we're putting together videos. So if you saw my club template from earlier, where I had a video link available for the coaches to click on, we've created 80 of them, and as you can see, we're down in the dome doing it. And if you're aware, you know the dome has blown away since in the bad weather we had a couple of weeks ago, but we were in there beforehand. We recorded 85 games, solely based at the nursery age. So as of, I would say, the start of March, these 85 games will be available for you in October. You can go have a look at them, pick out a game that you think will be good, copy the URL at the end and put it into your template and send it to your coaches. So it should be that simple. I'll just play this game as a quick example. I think this might be called Farmer's Tag.
There's no sound at our end there, Sean.
That's okay. I tell you what I'll do. I'll share again just to make sure you have the sound. It's a Carlo accent and it's fairly boring, so I didn't want to bother you with it, but I'll stick on the sound that you should have it this time. Just present. Yeah.
Farmer's Tag.
Good.
Set up the area as shown. Nominate one child to be fox, red bib. Nominate one child to be farmer, yellow bib. Everyone else are sheep. Fox aims to catch the sheep. Farmers have to roll over the sheep if caught. Rotate rolls regularly. To adapt varied activity, please follow the stepper model.
Yeah. Yeah, look, so I suppose I'll leave it there for the moment. So just on those videos, there'll be 85 of them. They're about 40 seconds long, but as you can see from that, like it tells you all the equipment you need, it shows you how to set it up, and then we have that voiceover that talks through the game and how to play it. So that should be a huge resource for you going forward. I know Michael Gerard will have more resources for you, but yeah, I think that's going to be a huge benefit to us moving forward. So make sure that as soon as they're ready, the videographer is finishing editing and we're just putting together the last couple of touches on it. So it should be this week or next week. We have them sorted. We'll get them to Chris and we'll make sure that everyone has access to them because they should be a huge help if you're going to be coordinating a nursery program. I definitely think we should be using them and getting those videos out there to our coaches. So Chris, I'll hand back to you there and open up. I know 35 minutes. I don't think we're too bad on time, but
No, brilliant, Sean. Good. Just to reiterate some of the points that Sean presented on, I feel that it's important that our standards are as high as possible within Gaelic Games Europe. And Sean has presented best practice in terms of what is happening in Ireland. It is your responsibility then to take the pieces that you can do, that you can meet, and to implement them into your environment. So some of them things mightn't be applicable, but when we share the slides and you get to go through them and you're maybe chatting in a clubhouse or you're chatting with your committee or a few other parents around, what could we do with our nursery in our nursery space? That should be an example of the structure. And I asked Sean specifically to come on to talk about the structure because the structure is the foundation, if you like. You can have all of the drills and all of the bits and pieces that you're going to implement, and we're going to go through some of them later on. But without having a clear structure, a clear vision about what it is that you want to do in this space, articulating that to your other coaches or to your parents or to your helpers, well then that becomes a bit of a problem and you get a breakdown in communication. Just on the point that Sean mentioned about agility balance coordination, to give you some context, when I started with Derry 18 years ago, We had no nursery programs. We had no under 12 leagues. We had people delivering coaching the same way as they would have delivered coaching 30 years ago when Derry won All Ireland in '93. So that was where we were at. As a consequence, we didn't win a minor football game in the Ulster Championship for 7 years. And all of these things might seem trivial in terms of agility, balance, coordination, running, jumping, throwing, catching, passing, kicking. But unless we go back and address the basics of the game, there's no point in rushing into games-based stuff too early. So if we're dealing with kids, agility, balance, coordination, running, jumping, throwing, and then catching, passing, kicking will come as we move through the phases. I have a slight concern in some areas in Ireland where I feel that kids are being pushed into games-based scenario, fully invasive games-based scenarios too early, and then they're not developing that confidence to execute the skills. So I think that's an important point. I have a question, Sean, just in terms of that smaller hurl that you mentioned, the hurlog.
Yes.
Up until what age can participants use that hurl to?
Well, there's no age to it, but I mean, it is a 24-inch. Like,
All right, okay.
as they get into go games, you're going to have to get a bigger hurl so they can start properly striking and all the rest. I suppose the hurl is just, it's a kind of soft hurl as such, and it is just about getting them used to your grip, your swing. That's a company. But like there are a lot of other companies like them as well, obviously, that you might find somewhere else. But yeah, that's just one example. And I suppose in our schools program as well, there's so many counties now getting into a come on and play, which is an introduction to hurling for our junior, senior infants. They're also using this new hurl. It's just a way of getting around that you don't have to, because it can be a very expensive thing to have hurdles and helmets there for everybody. So it's what some people are using in Ireland right now.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think the idea of them being able to use that without needing to exchange helmets is a big plus there for the younger kids. And then just on the point, there was a question come into the chat around the old foundation being the equivalent to ICCG, which is correct. And
Yes.
It does have modules on coaching kids and youth. The point that Sean is making is this new nursery coach workshop is targeting specifically helpers or parents who, as Sean described, are maybe stand at the side of the pitch or the hall with a cup of coffee, and you want to get them included, but you want them to have some type of idea about what it is that they're signing up to do, or to have some type of knowledge. So the ICCG course is 8 to 9 hours to complete. This new course is going to be 90 minutes to complete, and I'm hoping that my coach developers that are going to get upskilled in Valencia, see Frankie on the call, who's going to be one of those guys, Pierce and a few others, that they'll start rolling this out, and it's targeting specifically at parents or helpers. The point, and again, just to reiterate this point that Sean made, the coordinator or the league coach will still need to have their coaching certificate. And if parents can progress on through with their sons or daughters into sort of go games ages, they will then need to pick up the ICCG course for them to be legal to be involved in terms of coaching. Just want to reiterate that. Any other comments on that piece, Sean?
Yeah, no, look, I suppose we've ran 4 or 5 pilots. Those posters that I showed you have changed so many times, and have actually changed again since what I showed you, just minor changes. But they're ready to go to print now. So we will have them, Chris, in probably 3 to 4 weeks. So I'll leave that with you. It was just, I suppose, the feedback from the pilots is important, and it was a case of people not having enough time, but also being a little bit wary of going to an ICGG, 8 or 9 hours or something that I'm not really sure of. Whereas this is more based at entry level. Like ICGG is a little bit more advanced at times. Like you're talking about your technical stuff and tactical stuff and that kind of thing. But this isn't. This is based very much at a low level and entry level. And it's very enjoyable, it's very practical. The coach developers lead an awful lot of it. And it breaks down the barrier, that uncomfortableness that might be there. And it was 93% of participants said that they would be more inclined to do an ICGG after completing this than they would beforehand. So it definitely won't take away from the ICGG. It might in year 1, but that should transfer then into ICGGs when these are 2 or 3 years down the line.
Brilliant. And the point about the video, Sean, when do you think you're going to have that coaching resource available that we can send out to the lads?
as you're very much aware, everyone is kind of doing every other job at the moment. And Emma, who a lot of the guys would have met as well last year with me, is currently just putting together the final edits on it. And I mean, it's very possible it's this time next week. I'd say, yeah,
But you're
first
going to
week of
say this
March.
time next year.
No,
No,
no, this time
this
next
time
week.
next
Yeah.
week is good. Okay, question from Basil. How do you sign up coaches in your club to take the course?
Well, I mean that's the same as you would now. So if you have a developer in Basel, um, I mean you send out the messages say you're going to run one, and then you recruit them as such. They will need to have an account on Fern, so they'll have to set up an account on Fern. But you can send them that link, and then they sign up to the course themselves. Um, Once they complete the practical, the 90-minute that with you, they just have to do a 10 to 15-minute kind of recap. And once they've done both those things, they'll get a cert in the an e-cert will be sent to them, sent to their email, and then that's it, bang, you're done. That probably wasn't a great answer, but yeah, it is a case of just recruiting yourself, Chris.
Yeah, no, I've just added the link to Fern on that as well. So Fern, and you mentioned October. Do you want to just give an explanation as to what that is and what people can find there?
Yeah, so I mean, Tubber is supposed to be a coach education space. It's not the most user friendly at the moment. We're trying to improve it. But there will be, so all of the slides you've seen there today, all of that information is going to be on Tubber. And Tubber is linked with Fern. All right, so Fern is about your membership and it tells people, the coach officer, what accreditation you have. Where Tubber is a resource-based thing that if you're upskilling yourself, all of that stuff has been done through Tubber and it's linking with Fern. So there's a link there. But yeah, to make it a short answer, it's our coach education piece. And over the next couple of years, we will continue to develop the resources and that to make it more user friendly and to aid coaches a lot more than what's currently there. There's very, very little content created by the GA itself. You're dependent on the likes of your Michael Gerards and everyone else who's been doing stuff. So, I mean, it's my job and your job, Chris, over the next number of years to get that Tubber populated and definitely more user friendly.
Yeah, no, I think the quality of the videos that you're producing, to have 80 videos in this space is going to be a really, really good resource. So that's great. Just a point on the resources. I had a conversation with a fella last week around AI and producing paper resources in different languages. And I think the barrier that exists with languages, AI is going to help us with that over the next 12 months. What he's telling me is that it'll just not become an issue because people will be fit to access documents, not necessarily videos, but documents in multiple languages, probably within the next 12 months at ease. I'm not sure how they're going to translate that Carlo voiceover that you had on the video, but the documents we should be fit to translate.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Again, you would want to be just careful there. Like we're using AI ourselves, myself and Sarah, like have an account there, and we're trying to use where we can to try to save some of the workload. But again, translating something into another language, sometimes words can mean different things and expressions can mean different things. As everyone on this call will be aware, but I'll highlight that point that yeah, maybe get them double checked from a native, or
Yeah.
even I suppose a lot of these will be fluent as well on the call. So that is just one point to make on it.
Any other questions for Sean before he goes? Okay, like I said, this is the first piece of the call. The second piece is going to be Michael Gerard Doherty, who is actually taking a session tonight and is jumping on the call. So I'm expecting him any minute. So what I'm proposing, if anybody has any further questions for Sean, pop them in the chat and I'll send them to Sean and come back to you directly. We're just going to take a bit of a comfort break here. 5 minutes, hopefully Michael Gerard will be on. It'll give people a chance to go to the toilet or get a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and then we'll reconvene when he comes back on. Is that fair? Just to, at this point, thanks Sean Gannon for coming on tonight. Monday night, 7 o'clock at home. We're all dealing with children as well, and dinner and all of the rest. So it would have been easy to give tonight a miss, but really appreciate Sean coming on, and I'm really excited about the resources that his department are producing. And I think they will be a great to help us in Gaelic Games Europe. So Sean, just thanks a million for coming on, and we'll maybe see you again over in the continent.
Yeah, Frankie did promise me a weekend away, and you're obviously heading there next week, and I got no invite. So, yeah, I'll wait for the next one. You can bring the nursery
Touchy.
workshop to Valencia.
Touchy.
That's on me, Sean. It's my fault.
No worries,
Okay.
guys.
So, folks, firstly, just thank you very much for giving up your evening. It's probably later over there than it is here. I'm just in the door myself from an under-9 session. Before that, an under-10 session, and before that, there probably at the same battle as you used to, trying to get the kids fed and homework done before I get out the door. So, thanks a million for giving up your time. Tonight, really, I want to delve into where this manual came from, because as much as you may benefit from the games in it, if your own why and the reason in which you're involved in the games isn't coming from a value-based skill set, then there really is no point to it. If you're going to use the sort of games material that's in here, but keep barking at kids or picking out favourites that are based on maybe who's that wee bit more progressed than the others, then they really aren't worth the paper they're printed on or the computer screen that you're viewing at now. So for me, I wouldn't mind looking a wee bit at your whys and getting a taster of what you want out of today, if that's okay. So the big question is, and I start every workshop with this in person and across Zoom too, why are you taking this workshop tonight? Fire away in the chat box. And if you don't mind, Chris, just sharing away.
Okay, I just want to type into the chat box there, folks. Don't be shy. Want to learn how to be a better coach?
So, yeah.
Brian, to run sessions which ensure the kids are having fun whilst learning.
Amazing.
From Berlin, to keep up to date on most recent developments and processes.
Mm-hmm.
Barry and Claire, parents here in Strasbourg with a new youth section. Anna Marie, keeping kids engaged. Carol Dempsey, broaden knowledge to run more varied sessions. Jeremy, have young lads in the club, want to support my local club and want to have a frame to which we do this best. Audrey, to improve my teaching of children and keep them when they're older.
Brilliant. I'm going to jump in there, Chris, because everything so far is very value-based, which is exactly what we want. No one there has said to make our nursery team win every nursery competition at the playing, that every child is going to be hand-to-toe and hand passing the ball afterwards. So for me, everything I've heard so far is value-based. And I suppose to jump in on that last point there, I know there's quite striking similarities between teaching and coaching in a lot of people's eyes, but for me personally, it's the environment that we set for the kids and the kids themselves that are the best teachers. And the reason behind that is the teachers, the kids will follow one another's language much, much better than we will. I used to think I absolutely stormed the session talking to the kids about a hand pass and look, if the wrist is pointed in this direction, if it's perpendicular with the elbow on that, and walked out of it giving myself a big pat in the back saying, Jesus, I was right on the money there with my technique. Lo and behold, the kids the next week were exactly at the same point, because it was language that made sense to me. It was far too detailed, where I had a kid at 3 years of age who turned around on my second cycle of coaching and says, so So basically, Michael Gerard, the hand pass is like Spider-Man shooting a web. Only instead of shooting a web, he's shooting the ball at the person in front of him. And I was like, Conor, you're 100% right. you're on the money. You're on the money. So I've actually moved away a lot from seeing myself. I'm a teacher by trade, primary school teacher, and I would have seen myself almost in that teaching role, outside of the classroom, of course. But the more and more coaching that I do, the more and more I see myself as a facilitator, as someone who's putting a framework in place, an environment in place where the kids are really doing most of their learning through the games and through one another, as opposed to me in the past where I'd a student, I'd have demonstrated a solo, I'd have demonstrated a hand pass, I'd have demonstrated your evasive skills. I'm now using games and the kids as a focal point, where the kids are then showing the best examples and using their own language to describe it. So really strong value-based wise there. And it also gave me a wee opportunity, I suppose, to share the way my own coaching's developed. And I like to take much more of a back seat in terms of the instructions that be given and the advice, I suppose, be given there too. So for you, what does that look like? What does them values you spoke about, what does that look like? If I was to walk into any one of your sessions at the minute, what would it look like? What would I see? Me being Michael Gerard Doherty as a coach, but also me being a new parent who's new to Gaelic games. This is something that's brand new to my family, brand new to my son or my daughter. What can I expect when I walk in that door? Fire away in the text box. You keep me right again, Chris, just in terms of responses, please.
Here's madness.
Madness, okay. Controlled chaos.
Hopefully happy faces and laughter.
Okay.
Like the idea of kids putting things together in their own language, good to teach them leadership. Charlie, a hall full of madness, organized chaos.
Love that organized chaos word.
John from Berlin, coaches trying to figure out how to best organize good games to develop skills. You, from Basel, well prepared sessions, age based. Lots of activity and enthusiasm from 6 to 17-year-olds. Welcoming, keeping the kids busy and lots of fun games based on enjoyment and basic skills. As the club side of things, teaching them a bit of structure and something that they want to return to from Patter.
On the money. Absolutely on the money. I mean, I couldn't rate it better. If that was a framework for your nursery group, if we were to take all those ingredients, we would have one hell of a cake baking in the oven right now. Right from that word welcoming, having someone almost appointed there to greet every child on the way in our own setup there. So tonight, even the kids have been used to it. At 9 years of age, they'll be welcome with a ball. So they'll be. I'm lucky enough. We've 6-person coaching panel there. Every child will be welcomed by one of us with a football, and they'll be asked about their day, how they get on, and then they'll go away and they'll naturally chat to their teammates. Some they make the scene, some maybe in their own school, so they saw them a few hours ago, but that welcoming feeling's there. And likewise, parents are feeling totally comfortable and their kids are safe and happy with us. We generally use the first few minutes to allow the kids to acquaint themselves with one another, to catch up on whatever's been happening in life, and then we get into our general session. So when I hear controlled chaos there and keeping the kids active, that is it. That's basically it in a nutshell. Long gone are the days of 10 children standing behind one cone, 10 standing behind another. One will walk out, pass the ball to another child, and then he's standing in the queue again, or she'd stand in the queue for another 30 seconds. The more our children are engaged and involved, the less likelihood of them becoming bored, distracted, looking to entertain themselves in different ways. The way I look at it, we have them for an hour, maybe 45 minutes if you're working with your entry point at nursery. We have to maximize every single second that they're with us. You know, you break that down as a percentage of the rest of the week. It's a very, very small percentage of their time that they're sharing with us, and we're blessed with their company. We have to squeeze every ounce of it, and I suppose that's what I'll try and do through a number of the games I'll be sharing with you later on. What do you see when you look at this image and that image? I'll flick between the two. Tell me what you see. This is the group I'm with now when they were 5 and 6 years of age. What do you see? Type in the box.
Superheroes.
What do you think that's some analogy for?
We've got carnival, we've got Halloween fun, a party on the pitch.
When you try and answer that question, what do you think superheroes are an analogy for? What do you think I view these kids as superheroes?
Anybody want to give a stab at that? Following their dreams. Being super. Using their powers. Be whatever they want to be. Reaching their potential. To make them feel good. Reaching the kids at their level, empowered. Being confident.
You've hit most of them. You look at the kids there, the majority of them are dressed up differently. Every one of them have superpowers that they don't even know they have. For most of them kids, their parents' happiness before and after this session is in their hands. Whether the parent is dragging them out the door to try and get them there, whether the parent knows the second they go in the car, they're going to slam the car door and complain about being there or being upset about what their last hour was. Or the flip side of that, where their parent knows they're chomping at the bit to get to their session, that they're coming off it on a high with rosy cheeks. Can't wait to tell you about the game they played, about the friends they made, about the score they got. Kids don't even realise. They don't realise the power they have. They don't realise the superpowers they have. They literally have their parents' happiness in their hands. And sport can play a huge, huge part in it. Now, unfortunately, for some parents, that can be based on how many points they're getting, how well they played in a match. And there's kids even there with that pressure on them who still show up at your session week in, week out, trying to do their very best. There's kids there who may have had to beg their parents, who were exhausted after a day's work, to take them there and use their own superpowers there to convince someone 20, 25 years their senior who they needed to drive them there and get themselves there. So for me, they're absolute superheroes, and they don't realise half the power that they have. So it's up to us to instill that within them. And how we do so is by creating that sense of belonging, where it doesn't matter if you can kick that ball over the houses across the fence there, or you're still learning to strike out of your hands. You're still here wearing the same jersey as we are, for the same reasons as we are, to come together under a GGE community. For us, it's like a secondary family. Our own family name is Sarsweets, our own club. And every time I see another child, be it in the street, be it in the supermarket, and they're wearing a green and black jersey, we straight away feel a part of something. And to me, that goes much deeper than a leather piece of football or a wooden stick. That is something that makes our games different than any other, because it's a community where you will always and should always feel welcomed and have a role, and be that in a playing capacity, or be that as a stats person, a chairperson, a treasurer. There will always be a role there for you in the GA, and we're very good at retaining one another in that regard too. So for me, I'm not just looking at the group around me as players. I'm looking at them as people with all their own superpowers and all their own special talents that may one day be showcased best on the field of play, or may be showcased best in a committee room, or in schools, or in our wider community. And that's really what you're building. That's so much more powerful than just putting points on the board. When you look at these images again, to me, we have to get as many people on board as well. You do not need to be an absolute expert in Gaelic games to get involved with these youth teams. What do you feel the most important values are? Here we've got two people. We have my father there to the right, who is in his mid-60s. He'll have no problem me saying that. And then we have a brand new coach, someone, his name's Marty, who was never involved in Gaelic games. He came from a soccer background, but his son's friends in the local area were playing, so he wanted to join. And now he's part of our coaching team the past year. So what do you think they needed? What do you think the key, what's the key thing you're looking for in coaches at this age group? Fire away in the text box. Want to build another lovely cake. Want to bake another lovely cake here. So what am I looking for in this recipe? What are the key ingredients and the best type of coaches at this age group?
Patience, enthusiasm, fun, and being able to keep the kids flowing, a light touch, an ability to herd cats, a mentor, instilling a love of the game, enjoying it, positivity, keeping it fun and engaging, a good attitude.
Fantastic. So no one there says that it's a prerequisite there that you have played Gaelic football or hurling or camogie for 20 years. That you can name every single rule like the back of your hand. You can name off who the all-stars were from last year, the last 10 all-Ireland winning teams. And for a lot of people on the periphery, maybe looking from the outside, that's what they view Gaelic games as a community there that you need to know a lot about, you need to be invested in, have a strong background in to be of use. For me, that could be further from the truth. Your value set is what make you the best sort of coach at this age group. And all those things you mentioned, being encouraging, having patience, being well organized, yes, being engaging with children, helping them feel a part of your session, helping them feel a part of your club. To me, that is the biggest thing. Building up those connections and those bonds. If I look at someone and I'm saying, any player in my team could talk to them, and whether it be something positive or something negative that's happened in the session, they'd be just as excited to tell them something positive as they would feel supported if there was something challenging going on to me. That's what I look for when I'm putting a coaching team together. So I'm going to jump out of this now and give you a taster of the manual itself, which, as Chris said, will be made available to everyone. I just want to ensure that everyone gets the best possible use out of it, and for that reason, I'm just gonna take a wee look at it now. Can everyone see that okay? Is that all right there, Chris?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, no worries at all. So you have no need to read that. You read that yourself, and that just gives a wee bit of a background to why I did it. I want to skip to the contents page. It's a page that's often skipped, but for me, it's pretty important. So although the text's quite small here, you will get your own copy. You'll see abbreviations beside each game or an infographic here. And those abbreviations basically are a key, so that if you, for talk's sake, are focusing on fundamental movement skills, you'll see FMS written beside it. If your group on a particular week want to really home in on hand passing, you'll have the HP, okay, your brown saucer. But you'll have a range of abbreviations there, and that'll basically help you navigate through the manual, as opposed to going, geez, I remember seeing a hand passing game in here, but I can't remember what page is it, and having to flick through all through the document. There's also a range of infographics as I've written there too, and those will basically act as supplements to what you're doing. But for me, as I say, those questions I asked previously on the why, they are so important as a foundation before you even consider these games. If that isn't right, and you have people around you for all the wrong reasons, to fill their own ego, to try and create a winning under 6, under 18, then it doesn't matter how enjoyable or how learning rich these games can be, they're not going to be maximized. So I'll give you a taster of the first game so you can get an idea of how it works. So for me, this manual really came about because I delivered the guts of about 85 workshops over the past 18 months. And it was coming up the last September, and I was inundated with different clubs up and down the country looking me to come and deliver workshops again. And I just happened the time. I got involved this year with the Antrim under 20 side, and I just knew logistically that the previous 18 months have been very, very tasking, not just myself but my family. You're talking big long journeys, at sometimes 12-hour journeys down to the likes of Cork and Kerry there, and it just wasn't going to be sustainable. But I'd be one of these people who, I wouldn't say finds it hard to say no, but when you really believe in something and believe in the message that you're trying to put across in terms of coaching values and these ideals, I really believed in what I was doing, and I really believed in the games, and wanted to pass them on to as many kids up and down the country as I could. And there was almost that sense of guilt in me that, God, I could have been a kid down there somewhere in Waterford or in Roscommon or Leitrim, and because you couldn't make the time to go down and deliver a workshop for their club, they may have walked away, and God knows where their path may have taken them if they hadn't stayed involved in GGE, just as I know so many lads in my own area in West Belfast have. So for me, it was about how can I get creative and find a way that I can share these games, I can share, I suppose, pointers there that have worked so well for me in the past in my own area and in the clubs that I've worked with, and this is where the manual was grown. But I knew in every workshop that the majority of people back in the day when I know I come across as quite young. I'm only turning 38, but I've been attending coaching workshops from about 15, 16 years of age. To me, I'd always had pen and paper, jotting everything down. But as the years have gone by, everyone's got the phones out, and they're recording sessions and recording different games and pointers there. So for me, I knew moving forward that it wouldn't be enough to just write down and give instructions, provide instructions on the games. That for it really to work, I would have to try and share videos to go alongside that. And that's where the QR codes came in. So in every game you come across in the manuals, there's 43 in total. You'll have a breakdown in terms of how the game works, exactly what equipment you'll need to get set up. There'll be progressions there for your teams progressing through the age groups, or indeed as they're growing in confidence with a certain game. It may be you want to reach that again and develop it further a few months down the line, maybe in a second or third term. And then there's almost coaching cues there where you can watch out for bits and bobs there and different players to draw your attention. And then a part where I'd be huge on would be the coaching questions. So where before I'd have turned around to the children and said, look, let's try and catch the ball this way. Let's do this, let's do that. Trying to use the games as say to bring those learning opportunities about. and then drawing the information from the children. So, for example, in this one, I'm going to show you the video. So if you all have your phone nearby there, I'm going to just really zoom in on the QR code. If you all want to just take a moment there to scan in on the QR code, and I'll just give you all a moment to do so, and open up YouTube. You'll probably have to watch a wee advert or skip it to begin with, and I'm just going to give you all a wee moment, a minute there, just to make sure that it's working okay. And once you do so, if you just give a wee thumbs up to Chris in the chat box, I'll know then that a fair few of you have got viewing it, and then we'll have a wee chat about the game itself and how it ties in with the actual layout on the sheet.
Just got a few thumbs up coming there, Michael, Gerard. So
Good job.
the good news is they're accessing it.
Happy days. That's perfect. So for anyone, I'm just going to speak over you if you don't mind, because I know some of you will be actively watching. It's a good time to have a conversation. As you're watching it there, hopefully you're noticing how it's very interactive, that with parents involved with the children, there's constant movement. It is chaotic. To me, I say your session should look like the playground instead of the school classroom. You know, yes, there's learning going on, but it should be in a very enjoyable environment. You don't want your kids to feel that they're coming back to the classroom and you're the teacher there. They want to feel more like they're in the schoolyard, where they're enjoying themselves, but there's also learning taking place. So these questions are really going to help you draw upon the knowledge from the children. They'll use child-friendly language, and they'll also be using examples that they've directly experienced, as opposed to talking about examples the coach has shown them. So things like, what parts of your body help you catch? There you're hoping that the children are talking about their hands, their chest. You can then ask them, well, what shape did you make? Show us how high you can catch your teddy. And again, as the kids are demonstrating that, as opposed to a coach, you can pick out one child who's doing it really well and ask the other children, God, what did they do well there? And the difference is, when they see their peers doing it well, all of a sudden this becomes really attainable, as opposed to them looking at to us as adults, as coaches. If you're the coach, you're meant to know this. Just like a teacher showing you, a teacher working out a sum. If you're a teacher, that's your job is. You're meant to do that. But they see the person next to them being able to do the sum, then all of a sudden that sum seems a wee bit more achievable. Someone else in my class can do it. And it's the same here. Johnny's my next door neighbor. If he can do it, I can do it. He goes to school with me. He's the same age as me. Then all of a sudden things become so much more attainable. And that's the difference here. So those coaching questions for me are every bit as valuable as the actual games themselves. And this is the same, just to browse through. This will be the same for every single game. You will have a QR code where you can watch the game, and you'll also have the breakdown in terms of the progressions, the further the games, and also what to watch out for, what to keep an eye out for in terms of learning moments in the children, and then the coaching questions. As I say, they'll be complemented and almost topped up with some infographics. So here, for talk's sake, we have piece of cake coaching, and that's supposed just giving you a taster of what a general coaching session should look like, what the art of coaching should look like. And I'm not going to go through all these infographics for you, but they are helpful. There's even one there too on your coaching team, when you're trying to get people involved, what sort of roles they're going to have. There's also some skill breakdowns there too. To say, where I spoke about all these different parts and autonomy of the body, children were talking about superheroes, and it made so much more sense to them. There'll also be a few skill evolutions in, of 3 of them in, where we'll look at the hand pass and the pickup, where we'll look at how they grow. And the balloon hand strikes there would be right from your entry points right up to combining balance and hand striking talents. So you'll see different progressions there too in a number of them. But you yourselves will get a good detailed look through this. The contents page, as I say, is going to be pretty helpful. There'll also be nuggets there, as I say, just on the actual structure of your session. So for when you may wish to work with the whole group, you may have a larger group there and you want to work with all 30. You may then want to break into different stations or have different activities ongoing at the same time. So this gives a bit of a taster of what I've noticed across both and how we can maximize the two in a session. But really, Chris will pass these through. Take a wee bit of time. Take what you will from it. It's been 2 years in the making. All my learning, the best games that I've used, it literally is a bit of a Bible there for a lot of our own coaches and prospective coaches in the club there too. So I'm gonna drop back out of it and just finish up our PowerPoint here before I give you a chance just to have a yarn. So my last question to you is this one that you see there. My challenge that I ask myself every week is, how can I make this our children's favorite hour in a week? So tonight, that is my challenge. That was my challenge with our nights. How can I make it their best hour in a week? I'm going to throw that question back to you. How can you make that hour or that 45 minutes the best hour in your children's week? Let's get typing. A few essays getting written.
This crew's slow in responding, and then when they do respond, it all comes in a blast. Fun, enjoyable, a good laugh, nice coaches, no pressure, making it fun for all, making it fun and engaging, and making it as enjoyable as possible, creating a fun environment, plan it out, see what works best for the group, keep the children active, keep them happy, keeping it fun, letting them act like kids, pick out the most age-appropriate games and skills to suit.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, look, I really, really hope, I'm just going to come out of this now, I really, really hope that the manual helps you in doing so. Naturally, I can't get on a plane and start traveling across Europe. But I know on Chris there, I've seen the sort of work he's done in Derry there. He's going to get much better at the helm there. Derry, we're struggling for a while to get someone in over their senior team there, but you've done well to get a Derry man out of Derry to be supporting yourselves there. But I'd just like to give you, I suppose, the last, and I know you've had a long enough evening there yourselves too. Just want to give you a minute or two there. If you have any other queries while I'm here, if anyone else wants to fire anything at me, work away there. I'll try my best to use my experience and my background to help you.
There's a couple coming through here, Michael, Gerard, now before you get away.
No bother.
At this age, the engagement with parents is equally important. Do you have best practice for this?
Yeah, well, for us, I really use our entry point. Our nursery starts at 3 years of age, so we'd have kids at 3 and 4 years of age. At that stage, we ask the parents to stay. The parents have to stay with their child, so they have to stay on site. We would use those 2 years as a filtration system almost to try and suss out who's a great way with the kids, who's smiley, who's really encouraging, who's there with the high fives in the corner, who's constantly running on with the water bottles. So we would use that as a filtration system. To me, it goes much further than just a coaching team. At that age group, it's essential you have parents there who can help out. Like I compare a coaching team to an intercounty coaching team, but they look very different. So where an intercounty coaching team might have a nutritionist, we have parents there who can bring on water bottles. We have parents there. We've actually got 2 parents there who bring fruit. So they'll bring sliced up oranges for the kids. And believe me, they're loved more than coaches, so they are. They know halfway through the sessions there'll be sliced up oranges or a punnet of grapes there they're getting handed out. And those parents, they're thinking about the team when they're doing their groceries. You know, they're getting an extra punnet of grapes there. They're getting an extra few oranges, and they feel a part of something. To me, that's the big thing. You wouldn't know which parents there maybe have done first aid through work on that. And with these younger age groups, to have someone on standby with plasters, just to comfort the children. I've yet to have a nursery group where there hasn't been one instance where there's been a wee graze or a wee bump on that there. We have to get to know them to find out everybody's skill set. And it's really taking the time, going that wee bit further to get to know them and know exactly what skill set everyone has, because there's going to be use for everyone.
Thanks, Michael. Gerard, I couldn't agree more. I love the analogy as well of you're running a county team with your young ones, and everybody has a job, and I think that's important. Is giving people roles, and that'll keep people active in terms of parents, because if they feel they're making a contribution, they'll stick at it. Just wondering when punnet of grapes started to become popular around West Belfast. We sell a bunch of grapes in Derry. Punnet's very fancy. There's one here, Michael Gerard, around how important is questioning and how often should you use it with the kids?
For me personally, as often as possible. I would have been pretty instructional based, and I think my teaching didn't help me in that regard, where I felt I had to be given. A lot of coaches, I think, can get into the habit of, if I'm not talking, I'm not active. I'm not doing my role. I'm not doing my job. You know, there's almost a perception out there that a coach has to be talking and instructing the whole time. They need to be in the middle of everything. For me, you learn so much more through questioning, and it doesn't need to always be whole group questioning. At times there, as the games are ongoing, just having the wee word in the kid's ear. How'd you do well? What helped you catch there? What part of your body did you use? What did you notice? How did you find that pass? To be honest, I constantly be in their wee ears as much as possible. Just gentle questioning, seeing what they know. It's a great measure for what they're taking in, what they're seeing. To me, it's so much more enriched than instructional coaching. Massive.
Just to reiterate that point about using questions, I think that's a real game changer for coaches as they progress on through. And I think once you get into the habit of using questions through your seniors, whether it's with Sarsfield's under 9s or with Antrim under 20s, it just becomes your norm in terms of how you deliver. And to me, it doesn't matter what team I'm taking, whether it's a senior team or whether it's an under 9 team. I'd say 90% of my delivery is through questions now, and it's a real game changer in terms of getting feedback from the players. So that's just experience and doing it. And as Michael Gerard said at the start, you feel as if you need to be talking all of the time. Sometimes less is more, and asking the kids what they thought of that, or giving you a rating at the end of the session, gives you a bit of confirmation as to how it actually went. So no, that's brilliant. Look, I'm going to pull it there. Just to thank Michael Gerard for coming on. Absolutely delighted to get you on. I think everybody can see and hear how passionate you are, Michael Gerard, about coaching, and particularly around this space and the nursery program. And like we had Sean on, who spoke about structures and policy, and Michael Gerard has provided us with examples of what coaching should and could look like. And how we interact with our players based around our values. And I suppose the values that the coaches fed back today. Like, them values are all aligned with the GA, and we had a couple of examples actually at the weekend of just really good examples of the GA and the tagline of where we all belong. And I think if kids are coming to your sessions, whether that's in Berlin or Strasbourg or Basel or wherever some of the guys are at here, and they're going away feeling pride of place, sense of worth, feeling like they can develop friendships, and it's a safe space, and the coaches value their input. I think if we get to that space in terms of creating environments for people across Europe, the rest of the stuff will come. Our coaching practice stuff will come, but creating the environment and creating the space is so important. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to share the manual with everyone after the call. And I want people to actually take time to digest it. It is a fantastic piece of work, and sometimes when people are given something, particularly for nothing, like this group is going to be given it, it can become a wee bit dismissive. But I have seen loads of coaching resources, and this is part of the reason why I wanted Michael Gerard on. We have used Michael Gerard in Derry for the last 3 or 4 years. He's delivered workshops face to face. To actually have a workshop for you, or to have a resource for you guys to be fit to use in Europe, I think is brilliant. And it will complement the resource that Sean Gannon and the national team are going to put out. So it's just an additional resource for you guys to use. And I think it's important just to take the time and use that properly. Our next workshop will focus on sort of Go Games area, moving into that space, and maybe moving into more skill specific stuff. So that'll be F2 phase of the player pathway, and I'm hoping that workshop will happen within the next 3 or 4 weeks. Like I mentioned in the chat, there is a coaching survey that is out. I'll share the link in the group. It's Microsoft Forms. I'm near enough closing that survey, so I think I've got 40 odd responses, and that's basically asking you guys on the ground, what's your need, what would you like to see more of, how can we help? And like I said at the start, by the end of this year, I'm hoping that there's going to be workshops and resources for you guys to access from the Gaelic Games Europe website that'll cover all of the stages of the player pathway. And again, this has been a brilliant start. Absolutely delighted to have Michael Gerard on to throw in the ball for us here. This weekend in Valencia, we'll have our coach developers workshop. That's going to be a fantastic resource for us in terms of people on the ground meeting your needs. So just thanks a million, Michael Gerard. Thanks to everybody that has come on and has spent the last couple of hours with us. I know we could all be doing other things, but it just shows you the interest in developing our games in Europe when we have 40 odd coaches on the call. And I really hope everybody got something from that. So I'm going to close it up. Thanks a million. I'll share the resources. If anybody has any questions for me or for Michael Gerard, probably best to email me, and then I'll direct the emails to Michael Gerard as we need and see fit. But just enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks a million.
Thanks very much, man. Have a good evening.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Good evening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Slap.
Bye-bye.